I was like balls deep in that goblin camp fight. So.
Oh, I see. Yeah, not to pull you away or anything, but
Nah, it's all good. I'd like just started it, so I was like, yeah, I can just restart when we're done
you're
here.
good. It was really funny though. I messaged you on Steam, and then like 10 seconds later, I watched you get off Baldur's Gate, and I was like, "Hey, it worked!
Success.
Success!" Ryan, it's your topic. You wanna open the podcast?
Sure.
All right.
See that. All right, well, welcome to the D12 is underrated, except you're not ready for that conversation yet. So we're talking about homebrew, specifically how it has changed over time. I thought this would be something kind of interesting to discuss, as we have seen how the internet has evolved with D&D over the last few years, and how that has impacted homebrew, and even then how various things throughout the internet have changed over time. So just kind of a baseline, I kind of wanted to get a gauge what it is that all of you use for homebrew, if at all, like where you go to get it, or stuff you make yourself, but places you find inspiration.
I'm gonna be real. Pinterest is my best friend. I'm like a white mom in her 40s. I get recipes and character inspiration and homebrew off of Pinterest a lot. I also go to oh man, I've been going to third-party books more recently. Like learning about which ones have been published, which ones are really popular for homebrew. But I would say probably Pinterest and a little bit of Reddit sometimes, and then I make my own. So
I love Pinterest.
love Pinterest.
Pinterest is pretty good. I'm a big fan of Reddit too. Like there's subreddits specifically dedicated to like homebrew. For example, like with the Starfinder campaign I was running, I found like somebody had done a 5e conversion for Final Fantasy VII. So it was pretty easy to like bring in the stats and stuff for the campaign because like most of the work had already been done. So big fan of
Sure.
that.
Oh, I also because I'm running a 3.5 game right now, I'm also on the 3.5 wiki a lot because they have a whole section dedicated to homebrew. Which is kind of cool. So like if I want something like when I went and added chocobos, I was like chocobos 3.5 and it came up on the wiki. Or like I was interested in, like, I was like, do Green Lantern rings exist? They do, in fact. There is a homebrew. They're like a level 20 item and they will steamroll a Trask. So
Yeah.
yeah.
So what I'm hearing is that that's or close to getting that item.
yeah, no, it's in my
You have to
back
get the
pocket.
chicken gun to get the Green Lantern ring.
I think the Green Lantern ring also technically, like the way they have it written, you need like a 25 or a 26 in wisdom or something like that, and you need like a plus 30 on will saves to use it. It was something something like insanely stupid that I was like, there's no way this is actually like an item you can use.
But to
So
your
you're
point,
gonna-
brother, I think most
Go
of the
ahead.
homebrew starts with you're like, oh, I think this could be really interesting. And then you like search around a bit and you're like, wonderful. Someone either did the work or can at least point me in the right direction to like make it myself, right?
No, for real. What about you, Ryan? What do you use?
I mostly get mine off of Instagram. There are some dedicated accounts that will, usually it's on like a weekly basis, but some regular basis they will put some content out there for like a specific item or a specific enemy. They usually have dedicated artwork for it. Trying to remember the name of one. I think it's called like Tudyk's Tavern or something like that.
Oh yeah, like Gnome Depot is
regard-
also on Instagram, right?
I'm not sure. Probably are.
I like
I don't use Reddit a whole lot, nor do I use Pinterest a whole lot right now. So,
yeah.
although I have used Pinterest a lot in the past,
Pinterest is bad. This is a general PSA really quick. If you do go to use Pinterest, they're having a really, I don't want to say a tough time, because I don't think it's a tough time. I think they're just straight up ignoring the AI that's flooded the website, and their way to fix it was they were like, here's an AI tag that says it was made by AI. which is just
Doesn't
dumb.
even work half the time.
It's
Yeah.
just all AI slop.
It's bad.
We don't support AI. Is stupid, and its only place is in solving problems that will be done much more time efficiently than in other places. And I rest my case there. Anyways, so when I was thinking about this topic, I know that like a lot of homebrew in the earlier days of D&D, Matthew will probably be able to talk about this more, came from a lot of paper supplements. So things like, I want to say like Dragon Magazine, which
Yeah,
I'm not.
yeah.
Would you consider Dragon Magazine homebrew?
So kind of. So I can talk about it a little bit if you want older homebrew.
Yeah.
Like, and obviously don't take me at word on this one, like, because I'm very much a casual enjoyer as I've been diving into the history, but like, so Dragon Magazine started in 78, I want to say, so a year after as a fanzine, I'm pretty sure. And so for a lot of people who don't know, like things that were really popular, like D&D music, stuff like that, fanzines were really big in a lot of local cities. And so homebrew, and a lot of people's ideas started with in like fanzines. Dragon, being the one that technically wasn't a fanzine, if I'm being honest, but it was like, it was started by the guys who made D&D, right? And so Dragon for a long time is a really great place if you can go and find the PDFs for it to go back and like look at all this really cool stuff, because a lot of the times it was like it's like hit or miss, right? So like to your point on the is it homebrew or not, because sometimes like specifically when you start with Dragon 281, when they started 3rd edition, a good chunk of the staff for Dragon Magazine, I know for a fact, is the actual team that was doing development for Dungeons and Dragons at the time for Wizards, because Wizards officially took over. But like in 2005, Paizo, who makes Pathfinder, they were doing Dragon Magazine. So like it's an official magazine, but a lot of that stuff in there is like homebrew because it was never in official books. Some of it did make it over, like monsters. Some of them ended up in monster manuals. So yeah, a lot of it was like word of mouth, crazy magazines, fanzines, and then when the internet hit, like forums, you know, it was like crack for gamers.
So let me ask this question then. Like, where do you draw the line between like homebrew versus like third-party supplements?
See, and so for me, this is where it gets tough, and I think inevitably the argument, at least for me, is it's like I draw the line where it's like homebrew is something that I think I get for free. Someone puts it out for free just because they like it and it's passionate. Things on like D&D Next, Instagram, Pinterest, like you just find it and they're like, yeah, like I made this thing, it's homebrew or whatever, right? Whereas like I would like to say third-party supplements sometimes are like some people might consider it homebrew, but like those are third-party items. It's weird, right? Because because for me it's like if I'm paying for it, I don't necessarily consider it homebrew. I just consider it like a third-party accessory, kind of like a lot of the stuff that Kobold Press puts out for 5th edition, right? Because like they have a bunch of monsters and subclasses and stuff like that, and that's like you could call that homebrew, but that's made by like a professional team and is professionally printed and all that. So I think that's where it changes. Is for me, it's like homebrew is put together for the community by the community and is mostly just done out of passion. Whereas like I think third party supplements, it's like they're still passionate, but it's like that's professionally done, right? So you know,
Yeah,
I
I
could
think
technically go back and say Dragon isn't, but like
I think the third party content, at least to me, feels like it's generally going to be a team and it's going to be more professionally done. And sometimes it is a single person, and sometimes there's not like a huge company behind it. But the reason I say that is because I think some stuff that's just made by a community does end up getting monetized, especially since, like, again, the ones that I talk about where they are putting stuff out on like a regular basis, they'll have stuff like coffees and Patreons. And then oftentimes, after so much amount of time has passed to them putting out regular stuff, they'll kind of combine it all into one and then sell that for like $5.
yeah,
And that still, I think, is more homebrew than it is third party.
I was gonna say to like honestly add on, I think this really goes to your topic, because when you first brought the topic, you were like, it's homebrew and how it's evolved over time. And I think this is just the natural progression that homebrew has had, specifically after it's exploded, right? Where it's like, yeah, you get some of the stuff for free, but it's like you can go to their Patreons and get more, or like they end up putting it in a book. Like I know there's I can't name them because I haven't been in truth in the 5e space in a couple of years. Which like sorry about that. Like but oh shoot, I was going somewhere with this. Hold on. Sorry. Man, I totally lost it. This is terrible. Terrible news. Oh, I know where it's going. Sorry. There's a lot of things where it's like people have made third-party content, like you said, on like their Instagrams and stuff, and then it's caught on and they've gotten really popular and they've had the opportunity to like make an entire supplement, an entire book for the third-party market. That's where I was going with that. Very cool.
Very cool.
I'm just trying to find some of the specifics I was talking about. So I know a lot of us are going to have a lot more experience within the last 10 years, give or take a few. When I started my first campaign when I was DMing, it was almost entirely any homebrew I used was entirely just off the top of my head, or it was from Pinterest. And a lot of them I felt like were kind of just screenshotted from various third-party stuff been released, or just high quality individual stuff. But one thing I wanted to get your opinion on is some of the, I don't know if any of you have seen it, but some of the homebrew stuff that makes its way onto websites like Roll20. Have any of you seen that, first of all? Have you seen the stuff that's on there?
Not really. Not
Yeah,
for
no,
Roll20.
I was gonna say not on Roll20, but we don't really use virtual tabletops, and so I don't really end up on the website very often. I know there's more than VTTs on Roll20, but I made an account actually. Like speaking of Roll20, I made an account this week, just to check it out. But
Yeah, so my impression of some of the homebrew on at least Roll20 is it's a little bit more Wild West. There's some absolutely wild things on there. Like when it comes to trying to make something that seems like it would fit well in a campaign and balanced, there are so many niche things on there. Like somebody made something specifically for their campaign, which is fine. And they're like, here, everybody, have this. And it's just mentioning random stuff from their campaign. You have no context for any of it. And you're like, okay, what am I supposed to do with this? Or they'll introduce spells that are, again, very niche, ridiculously overpowered in any other scenario. And it just feels off compared to the rest of the internet, which I guess is going to be kind of a given when you're in a more forum-esque space than a lot of the other places we've been discussing.
mm-hmm.
But I was just curious if anyone had looked at some of the wild things on there.
I haven't, like brother said. We don't use virtual tabletops much, but maybe to try and draw an equivalent. Like to me, homebrew kind of works like mods in like a video game, where it's like some of them might be very minor. It's like this adds a single thing, and you're like, that's awesome. And others are like, this makes you invincible, and you're like, okay, we have lost the plot.
Yeah, it's actually thinking of that. Do you guys watch XP to level 3 on YouTube? Shout out to XP level XP to level 3. Jacob, your content is great. We love you. But he did a video, I want to say recently, but I have consumed so much of his content, it's all a blur on like when it was actually uploaded in the last little bit. But he did one on rating homebrew on D&D Next, and there was one where it was like a monster called like Yo Boy Petey or something like that. And Petey was like level 2000 or something like that, and could like instantly kill parties. And that was one of those things where it was like they made it for fun, right? It's obvious this was never going to be in a campaign, but it was really, really funny. So I see some of that, but
I wanted to spend some time focusing on some of those creators that do end up kind of going more like making, I don't know if they make like a full living on it, but like make something off of it because they've done so much over so much time. Usually it's higher quality. Man, I cannot find this one I was looking at for earlier. I'm sorry, I'm totally thrown off here.
No, you're good.
So yeah, when I think the first one I found, she was an artist that did a lot of commissioned work and then ended up starting making stuff commissioned for her own D&D party, and then it ended up making a webcomic, very D&D-esque, and then ended up starting making she had one that's called like a shroom puppy or something like that. It's basically a dog, but put a shroom cap on it and some other flavoring here and there. And ended up making her name is Catilus. And she has a snail that's like kind of her main mascot. It's this magical snail, and then there's the Catilus itself as well, which is a magical cat.
Really quick, when you get a chance, send me links to some of these creators so I can put them in the description so that viewers can go and check them out.
Okay, I will do that. Here it is. I found it. It's not Tudyk's Tavern. It's a Rudok's Tavern. So what he will do, as I've pulled up some here, is he has just really high quality art for his, and then he'll give kind of what you see for a standard item description, where you'll have the name and the rarity and the details on that. He's very 5e focused. But he has started some of his own books. So looking at some of his more recent posts, he started one called Scions of the Fabled Kingdom, which has various of these items that he's created over the last little while. I'm curious to see where some of these things will end up going, because I think this is my prediction. I feel like it's going to become an oversaturated market soon enough, as a lot of these things on the internet tend to do. You see a lot of, just in the creator space, in social media, it's kind of bound to become highly saturated. And I'm wondering what that will end up making, because I think inevitably, unfortunately, we're going to see a lot of people making AI content, just selling their AI slop. I mean, like, look at this wonderful item I made, which at that point, you could just do that yourself. Why are you going to pay someone to do it, right?
Yeah, some of it's for the love of the game. You know what I'm saying? It's for the love of the game. But kind of to your point on where these things are going to go, I think there's always going to be oversaturation, right? But the point I was going to bring up about homebrew as a good transition for homebrew evolving is, take, for example, the Arcane Library, which is just Kelsey Dion, who is the founder of the Arcane Library and the creator of Shadowdark. I'm pretty sure she started making just third-party supplements and content for 5e. And as she put out more and more of those, she started doing more of her own stuff, and created Shadowdark, and now Shadowdark is already getting a lot of really cool third-party content, because I was also going to talk about Roll for Combat is doing 3 books for Shadowdark that are like dungeons and some monster supplements and stuff. And so it's also really interesting to see how, like, a third-party creator created their own game after doing a lot of third-party creation, and then there's already people springboarding from that too. It's been fun to watch, at least in terms of how that's spread. I really like Shadowdark. Go check out Shadowdark, please.
I don't know it's Shadowdark at all. I don't know what that is.
Shadowdark is an OSR. I'm gonna make you play it. I bought the books on Kickstarter this year. I talked about it.
Oh, nice.
So, or like with the recent release of MCDM, they just released their game Draw Steel, which MCDM is Matt Colville. Everyone loves Matt Colville. I love Matt Colville. And he was doing supplements for 5e as well. He had like Flea Mortals and a bunch of these other really cool books, and then they went and made their own game. And I also think that's kind of just a natural progression of a lot of this, is they love doing it. They love doing it so much, and then they start to realize it's like, oh, 5e doesn't do exactly what I want it to, and so they start tinkering and start working on their own stuff, and you get really great things like Draw Steel and Shadowdark. And I think Kobold Press has a game that they recently put out. Don't quote me on that, but so I think that's been that's been the cool stuff about a lot of these homebrew creators as well, that have turned into third-party creators that then turn into just game creators.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm curious, for I think all of you have DM'd at some point. How is your evolution of using homebrew items worked for you? Or rather, how did you, when you started at some point being a DM, how has it changed since then on how you've kind of incorporated homebrew and what kind of things you've wanted to include in homebrew?
I tend to only do homebrew item if it makes sense for my campaign world, and then I will give them out as I see fit story-wise. I don't really, in my experience as DM, nobody's come up to me with a homebrew item yet and been like, I want this, and then I've added it. And I've not seen just like a random homebrew from online and added it in as like an option for players.
Yeah, maybe that's on
In
me.
my
Because
DMing
like most of the
experience.
time I find, and I think this is just also from DM experience, right? I love homebrew, personally. I love homebrew all the time, and I think you guys can all attest to the fact that I will whip out random homebrew items. At least I think I do. Anyway, it feels like I do. Where it's like I'll whip out homebrew items. Either I made it because I was like, this sounds really cool, and I think this would be really fun. Like the one that's coming to mind is in the first campaign that I ran in 17. I created magic confectionaries, like licorice ropes and just all these interesting candies, because I'd watched Charlie and the Chocolate Factory and was like, this would be really fun to make for like D&D items. And I remember those being like wildly overpowered, but they were really cool. And so I feel like I give them out as they just come to me and I just throw stuff. But yeah, I don't think I think I've had you guys come to me like once or twice and been like, hey, we should like add this homebrew item, right? But it's like story-wise or just something I think is really cool or something I think would thematically work. It gets tossed in. I give it to someone and I really, really hope I remember what it does. And I've been better about, I'm better about taking notes these days when I toss homebrew at people. So
It's very similar with my campaign, right? Like most of the homebrew like originates on my end. Mostly because I've had a chance to like vet it, look over it, and be like, okay, I'm pretty sure if I add this, I'm not gonna like
okay,
derail the entire campaign.
that's huge too.
Which like,
No, that's huge too, because I've made those
because like
mistakes.
for sure, and like coming as a DM that came like after you, I had the benefit of hindsight. Where you could say like, okay, like I let in X, Y, and Z, and like the whole thing collapsed, right? So, coming after that, I can say like, okay, I should probably vet to make sure that like if my player wants something that's gonna like always transform someone into a chicken, like maybe don't turn it in because you're going to trivialize combat, right?
Yeah, no, that's exactly where I was gonna go story-wise, because it's like I don't give out wishes very often anymore. I have found that people abuse them, which I totally understand. I get that. I do too. But I like with homebrew, I once gave the group a wish and they all wished for weapons, just like a weapon of their choice, and I said, okay, cool, like find me, or like, I think my exact wordage was like, I trust you guys, just pick something that you think would be cool. And Carter took my trust and tossed it out the window and picked an April Fool's weapon that straight up one shot everything, that almost killed a campaign completely, right? And that is mostly on me. Like Carter saw the loophole and he ran with it, and honestly I kind of respect the boldness, right? I should have vetted that. It's on me 1000%.
Yeah. So having come after that, I have the benefit of hindsight to say like, okay, like anything that gets added, I have to vet first. Like
Yeah.
when we started the Starfinder campaign, Dad handed me like an entire homebrew class and was like, I want to run this. And I was like, give me a week to look over it. He didn't end up picking it, but like it kind of threw me off for a second. I was like, oh boy, I gotta like really think over this class, right?
Yeah. I think
Well, to the
oh, sorry, go ahead.
comment of like not having people come and bring things to you of like, hey, can we use this in the campaign? I think like my natural line of thought when I see something like homebrew, and I'm not planning on putting it in a campaign, my natural thought is not to be like, oh, this is cool. What if I asked my DM to put this in? Because one, it's not my world, and I feel like I don't have that connection to that world being like, oh, I could just put this in. Like it's not my world, and I don't think be like, oh, I could just ask them to put this in. But also like just as a person who doesn't like to doesn't like to try and be intrusive, at least not intend to be. I tend to be like, I'm not going to bother, asking to put stuff in because I don't want to like impose on what they're building, what they're trying to do.
I feel you. I'm the same way. So blanket statement, because 3 of you play games with me. All right. If you see something's cool, right, send it to me. I'll vet it and I'll probably toss it in my notes, or at least whatever. I'm totally fine with that. My dad sends stuff to me all the time. So.
Yeah, have you heard about the chicken gun?
Yeah, I hear about the chicken gun like once a week. I still get emails from Carter talking about the stupid chicken gun. I like legitimately have gotten like some emails where he talks about it. I'm like, I made a grave error giving him that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that one's on me though. That one's on me. I know Ryan, like I know for a fact you as a DM, you gave out some really cool homebrew items in our campaign, and I was down for it. I enjoyed getting some really cool homebrew items. I really did.
I was going to talk about that. Some of the items I gave out were stuff I'm like, oh, that's cool. I should give that to my players and see what they do with it. I'm not gonna lie though, probably like 30 to 50%, somewhere in that range, I made up on the spot. Especially for Carter, because Carter would be like, "What can I do with this?" And I'm like, like in our latest campaign that we had with him, where I was DM, I gave him that fishing rod, and then he went fishing the frog tongue at some point. There was a frog with a infinitely long tongue. That was the whole magic item, and he was
That was my
determined to
card.
use
Yes,
that.
you gave that to me.
That was you?
Yeah,
were
it was
determined
me.
to use that. Carter had the fishing rod.
Yeah.
And then he asked you to fix it multiple times. That's right.
Yeah.
And so it kind of became a mini game that, as I look back on it, there would be a few tweaks I'd make. I'd have less chances per over amount of time, but I kind of freeze in the moment when I'm DMing sometimes. I'm like, sure, why not? For better or for worse. And like the one thing that comes to mind is there was the spell that makes darts out of metal.
Needle darts.
And normally, as I understand it, the darts can just reform back into metal, and all you need is access to that metal, but it's not actually consuming it. But he wanted to see if there
Pathfinder,
was
right?
Yes.
Yeah,
yes.
I think technically you need to. Sorry, not to just. But I know this because I use it. I think you need all the pieces from the metal. No. You can just recall it. It comes back. It turns back into whatever the metal was. Just kidding.
So I wanted to give him some limited use of a variation of that spell. So I gave him, I think I gave him a couple different kinds of metal, but the first one I gave him was just rusted metal. And I gave him the caveat that it would not be able to be recalled, and he had like 10 or so uses with it, but he could use that spell with this certain material component to inflict additional, I believe it gave him like poisoning or something like that. Essentially just did a little bit of extra damage. But something like that was something I came up completely on the spot. I had no intention of adding that. And then he was like, I want to see what else I can use with my metal. Like, there are different kinds of metal. Why can't I try something else? I'm like, that's a good idea. But my problem when I would come up with something on the spot, because sometimes as a DM, I have a lot of internal conflict on just about everything. I'll overthink the entire thing, which is very bad. And so when it comes to things like magic items, I will think, oh, I should probably be giving them more, or I've been kind of stingy on how much things cost because I don't want to make them too overpowered, but now I feel bad that they haven't gotten really cool to use. Whether or not that's actually true is to be seen. And so sometimes I would just have magic items I would just kind of generate on the spot that either were extremely lame and just didn't do anything, or maybe I should change the word lame for extremely niche. Just for a situation that either I never put the party in or they never found a chance to use. And so I think there's with where am I going with this? I think there's just a good reason to have structure with the homebrew items. And if you do make something up on the spot, at the very least take notes. There were multiple times when people would say, I have this item, like, what item?
Yes, I shake my head up and down as I totally forget about it.
And they'd be like, yeah,
Ryan
what does it
asking
do
me
again?
about a
I'm
tome
like,
of infinite knowledge.
they're like, what does it do again? I'm like, it does something.
I'll check my notes.
Couldn't tell you.
Yeah, and I think the thing is though, is like as a DM, that's the fine line to walk, right? You don't want to give them too much because then it trivializes things. You don't want to give them too little because it feels like there's no progression, right? And so I recently have been erring on the side of like I'm gonna give it to him, and if it breaks things, okay, like so.
I think also my methodology changes based on what system I'm using. Not necessarily just because of like 5e, D&D 5e is always going to have the highest abundance of items just due to its popularity and how long it's been around.
Yep.
But also when I'm using 5e, I feel like there's a large lack of kind of creative ways to do things just based on pure descriptions. Obviously, the player themselves can do creative things with what they're given, but I feel like it takes a little bit more work to get there than it does for things like Pathfinder, where you're working more with putting, like we talked about this another episode, but how Pathfinder has a lot more focus on conditions compared to 5e. I feel like those conditions can facilitate more creative interactions in combat and in other situations than what you have in 5e. And so I'll try and like put in a spell that does something more unique, because you have a lot of spells and a lot of items that are just the same thing, but for a different flavor of damage or for a different flavor of alignment, or it's the same thing just for a different kind of character. And while I think having the opportunity for a variety of different characters to use one item, I think there's also something special about having a very specific kind of character being able to use something that's catered to them instead of making something for everybody, for every single kind of item or spell.
Right. I think as well, like to your point on 5e, I think it's just sadly, and a lot of people talk about this, I think it's just the limit of the action economy of 5e, right? You got move, action, bonus action, free action. Those are your 4, right? And I find that a lot of homebrew that either I made or that I found, a lot of it relies on the fact that it's like you can use this as a bonus action, right? Like an extra bonus action or a free action, just because it's so limiting on a lot of its action economy, right? And that's not a knock on it, right? But I find that's the common complaint. So, which, like, to be fair, I've been meaning to get some of the third-party supplements for 5e, because at some point I want to go back to the game, but I don't really want to support wizards, and that's a whole thing. But
so I also wanted to ask, in what scenarios do you, let me rephrase the question. When you're using homebrew, does it tend to be something that you came across and are like, that's a good idea, I should put that in? Or is it something that you specifically look for in a scenario? I know I had a mix of both, and I imagine there'll be a mix of both, but like, for me, if it was an item, it was almost always like, oh, that would be cool to put in. And then if it was like a monster or something, it was usually something I was looking for, because I'm like, oh, I want to have this kind of themed dungeon, and what's currently there in the base game doesn't really work with my vision.
Right.
So I'm curious what everyone else, how their interactions go with that.
My interactions as DM is it's normally 50-50. But I tend to find myself making monsters more than I do items. Because like I'll have an idea for something, like I can speak to, it's like I got this idea in my head for a monster right now that's like a half Spider-Man thing, like actual spider, not thwip. And there's a few things that are like close to it, but it's not exactly what I'm imagining. And so I've like taken stuff from different monsters and have started to cobble together like its stats. And then it's like with items in specific, most of the time it's like I find something and I'm like, oh, this would be really cool. Like there's this item I want to give to Raj at some point. Sorry, Raj, you're getting spoilers, called like Poncho of the Frog.
You already told me about this, and I'm so excited for it.
The Poncho of the Frog, and the entire point is it's just this poncho you put on that kind of looks like a tree frog that lets you jump really high and climb, which is like, I was like, that's so cool, and it would be so funny to give it to a barbarian.
It'd be so. And I've even just like my internal visual design for Danny has been sort of around him eventually having a poncho. Like right now, he wears a shawl right now, but eventually him in the poncho is going to be the fit, because you told me about this, I think like day one for him.
Yeah, something like that. I'd seen it and I was like, this is hilarious. I'm doing it, right? And then
part of his build also is centered around that item.
And then it's like but yeah, like monsters are normally the things that I make. Like I wanted to have a group fight Wrath from the 7 Deadly Sins, not the anime, like the legitimate from the Bible 7 Deadly Sins.
From the Bible.
And I was like, man, I need something that like hits really hard and is really nasty and really mean, and there was nothing that was really like it. And so I made this like really unholy abomination that was like half improvised, half written down, and that fight went really well, and that was really cool. So monsters, normally me, sometimes from people. Items I normally get from online, so mostly because I feel monsters I can tweak in the moment. Items are a lot harder to tweak away from players, right? Like again, the infamous chicken gun we've been talking about. When I tried to take it away from Carter, which I even asked him out. I was like, man, like I really got to get rid of this. It's gonna ruin the campaign, and he really didn't want to give it up, right? Like that's one of those things with items that is like, if I make something and it's really OP, it's a lot harder to claw back the rules because your players are going to be really unhappy with you if you do it.
Yeah.
Regardless of the fact that it's like, like as a player, like it's like you got to recognize like some of this stuff is really broken. You got to be okay with your DM changing things a little bit, right? But players are never going to enjoy that, and so I like going to the internet and just kind of hoping that they've done the work, even though stuff is still wildly broken most of the time.
Yeah, to Brian's earlier question, like at least for me, I'd say it's probably like 80-20. Like most of the time I'm like, oh, I'd really like this thing. I think it would fit well in the campaign. Oh, they don't have a specific write-up for it. Okay, I'll go looking for it. Oh, look, somebody else did the work. There it is. And then sometimes like for example, like you'll send me something, brother, where you're like, bro, you know what'd be cool? Like chocobos. And I'm like, hell yes, chocobos, like so down, right? Like so like it's like an 80-20 balance for me, I guess.
How about you, Ryan?
Me? I already said it.
Oh, you totally did. You totally did.
Yeah.
I'm like, I just wanted to make sure you answered your own question, and I'm like there. Yeah, you totally did. That's on me. I'm having a day apparently.
I'm curious how confident people feel in making their own homebrew.
Like not at all. If I'm being honest, I make it, I toss it on the table and I go, man, I really hope this works, because if it doesn't, like, I'm gonna be really disappointed. And with items in specific, my confidence on items is never high at all. I'll make it and I'm like, wow, I really hope this is good, and then it'll come back to bite me. Like I've had a few where it's like a candy. The candy's where I'm at right now, because I remember it's like I made cinnamon fireballs and I made them really expensive. I remember that. I made them really expensive, but the cast fireball when you chew them up and spit them, right? I remember those coming back, and I didn't have a limit on my write-up on how many you could eat. And I remember, I think it was Levi had like 5 and ate all 5 and just spit 5 fireballs in one go. And I was like, ooh, okay.
I don't even think Levi was in the group at that point. That was our first campaign.
This is when I brought it back.
When you brought it back.
When I brought it back.
Yeah, we got him. Didn't we get him as a gift from one of our Christmas campaigns, Christmas sessions or something?
I think it was something like that. I brought him back. I brought him back a few times, and every single time I learn from my mistakes and tweak it, which is a good thing. But normally, if it's like I just made it and I'm putting it on the table, right? Like if it's a monster, kind of shaky, right? I can change that on the fly though, and then I go and make notes. Whereas like items, it's like I am really shaky because I don't know when people are going to use it, and if it's going to be broken or not. So
I know there was an instance where I also kind of piggybacked off that idea for a session that was going to be during Halloween, where I got everybody's like favorite
ooh, I do remember
candy
that.
slash
That was good.
snack.
Yeah, it was
Oh,
good.
maybe I'm thinking of
And-
yours and not Maddie's.
And then I brought like the real life counterpart to whatever it was, and then also gave them a magical version of it in game. I feel like about half the players used theirs, and the other half forgot about theirs. And I don't know if that was a consequence of people just having magic items that they forget about, because that's what happens, or it was, oh, I don't actually think I'll be able to. I don't have any good use for this, because they were quite varied in their abilities and what they would do.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I just remember it was good. I remember it was fun. That's as much as I can give you because it's been a minute, but it was fun. So I think it worked out okay though. I don't remember it being an issue, and I remember using mine a few times. So yeah, I don't know. How about you, Brandon? I know you introduced some homebrew stuff. How shaky are you when you introduce it?
I'm gonna be honest. I almost never make something like from myself. I think the closest I've come was when we were running Starfinder, because Hephaestus could let you like custom craft weapons, right? But even
Right.
then, that's not really homebrew. That's more like me just making something up within the rules of like Starfinder itself, which they already have mechanics for, anyways, right?
Right.
And so, like most of the time, it was like, for example, when y'all had to fight Sephiroth, I was like, okay, he's got that crazy like 5 foot long katana that he fights with,
Yeah,
right?
he's got the Odachi.
Yeah, and so I was like, okay, I'm gonna have to whip up something for him to do it with. So I just kind of like homebrewed something where I was like, okay, his reach is like 10. He does like, I think it was like 2d8 or something. I can't remember the stats, but I just kind of like whipped up something that was like, good enough for the purpose of what I'm doing, because you're gonna fight him for like one session, right?
Right. So,
But
and
yeah, that's like the closest I've
and
come.
like yeah, I get that because like I think all the books for the most part, like the DMGs, they're like this is how you make items. Sometimes I think 5th edition has it. I know Pathfinder has it. I don't know if 3.5 has it. And I haven't played some other rule sets that I've got in my backlog, but I assume they're in there at some point. So
My issue with 5e's guide to it, at least pre 2024 rules, is just kind of the same issue I have a lot with most of their magic items, and I feel like 5e's power scaling is just kind of bad when it comes to magic items.
a little
I feel like
wonky.
finding a good middle ground for a lot of magic items is a little rough. Because for me, when I like, for instance, just a +1 weapon, it's counted as a magical. You get +1 to your attack roll and +1 to your damage. For me, that feels, at least for the damage, really underwhelming. And they're like, yeah, this is like a medium / mid-early game magic thing. It's gonna cost them 10,000 gold to get this +1 to their attack. I'm like, that's lame.
Yeah.
I mean, sure,
That's
it's
fair.
great for some
Yeah.
things to have that, to overcome the non-magical resistance, but when they're like, yeah, this should be counted as, fairly powerful. It's like, yeah, fairly powerful for a +1 to my roll. Oh boy.
Whippy.
And then there's Pathfinder that's like, oh, you want this rune that'll like increase your damage die by 1? Sure, that costs a nickel. And you're like, okay.
I was gonna say the opposite is it's like where I find 5e is really conservative with his magic items, which I don't think is a bad thing, right? I think as a DM, as a player, it's a little underwhelming. I think as a DM, it helps him make things more manageable. And I think as you get more proficient in DMing 5e, in specific, like you can start playing around with that a lot more, right? Whereas like Pathfinder is like, here's this item, it's like 200 gold, it lets you obliterate a moon. You're like, okay, thanks, so cool. Like, and so like sometimes you got to struggle with that power scaling too, because it's like I know in Roger's campaign I gave Bjorn, my sorcerer, this like staff of fire or something, and I remember it was like cheap. I was like, wow, this is so much cheaper than I thought it would be, and it just lets me cast like free fireballs and stuff.
Yeah, you also Pathfinder's money is so weird because they very much leave it up to the DM while also setting the prices for all of their stuff. So, and I gave y'all a lot of money for like traveling and
Yeah,
whatever.
no, which I did, because like I've been trying to do the more I've been trying to do the more the thing where it's like I give you guys the gold and then you guys can go and buy the items you want, whereas like
Yeah,
and then sprinkle in some of the fun items that I think are cool.
that's what I like to do as well. Yeah.
Because I just think it's a good way to go about giving out magic items, and then you can like sprinkle in the homebrew as things go, as the actual items you give out as loot, right? Which I always find a good mix of that, where it's like, let's toss in homebrew as the items they give away, and they can go buy the stuff they want from the book, unless it's like a legendary sword or something. So
Excalibur.
Yeah, no, you gotta go find that, right? It's like, you know, barring that, I think. But to your point, yeah, I feel like it's the rule sets are always a little underwhelming when they talk about it sometimes. So
So I've had two thoughts come into my head. The first is, I'm curious how many D&D groups actually play with 3 to 5 people as their players, because that's roughly what, like, at least the 5th edition stuff is centered around, of a group of like 3 or 4, maybe 5.
Mm-hmm.
And then ours is usually more than that. Sometimes way more, depending on what time we've been playing. But and so that also kind of throws into misalignment a lot of the stuff that you're pulling from standard or even from homebrew. But I feel like I rely on homebrew to kind of balance that out, because I can find something that will work for what balance I'm looking for.
I have tossed balance out the window recently, because I find that and it's not a problem, but I play on average with 7 to 10. I'd say 7 to 10 players on average at the table. Normally 7 on our Friday group. 7's I think is where we've evened out. 8 when Carter comes home, right? But like at this point I've kind of tossed balance out the window, because balance is built, like you said, for 3 to 5 players, and when you start tacking on more and more people, it's like balance just gets wickedly tossed out the window, and that's fine. You know, I don't worry about it.
Now, to your point as well, though, like when you're running like 10 people at the table, like it's way easier to just give like the gold equivalent and let everyone go shopping than like have to come up with 10 magic items, right?
Yeah, no, for sure.
So the other thought I had is, I'm just realizing that as a DM, I have a problem.
No.
And that's envisioning, like, I mentioned this a little bit when we were talking about NPCs as well, but with like some of the magic items I introduce, is I'm envisioning, oh man, this would be great use for this. They're going to use it like this. And then that doesn't happen.
Nope.
For obvious reasons, that being I am not.
Now, it's
That's
a
the
tricky
writer in
balance.
us instead of just the DM in us.
For some
Well,
reason,
I
the
do the same
players
thing,
won't
though.
do what I expect them to. They don't get
my-
the vision.
I love it though.
My dad
I
and
love when you
Levi
guys
in
use it.
particular also really like to like try and really think outside the box, you know?
Yeah. They do some crazy stuff. I dig it. Like I said, I love it. I love when it's like I imagine it's like, oh, this is the logical conclusion I took with this item. My friends will also take this logical conclusion. And then you don't, and you do something completely different. And every time I'm like, man, that was so much more clever than I was thinking. So, you know, props to you guys on that one.
Giving any magic item to your dad is a risk.
Yeah.
Just at any point.
For reference, my dad's been
I
playing
remember
since the 80s.
I remember
80s.
I remember
80s,
anytime
late
I've been
early
DM
80s.
and he's been in the campaign, he'll be like, "Oh, I want to buy this." I'm like, "Okay, how much is it? And what kind of rarity item are we talking about? tell me what it does. I'm like, oh great, and then he just smiles at me
Yeah, and then he still
and
shuts about
giggles,
it.
and then that's it. He's quiet about it. I'm like, what are you? What's that about?
Until all of a sudden you're in like the big bag fight, and he's like, "I pull out my orb of like Netherese consumption," and he dies, and you're like, "What? Where did you get that?" And he's like, "Well."
I pull out my orb of alcoholic consumption, and they're like, "What?" And he's like, "Yes, your guy just dies of alcohol poisoning." You're like, "Okay." Oh man.
His favorite thing is putting large things that like grow in very tiny spaces. Like there's the what is it, like the portable fort or whatever. He's
Yeah,
like,
Darren's instant fortress. He really likes.
Mhm.
He really likes portable holes and bags of holding, which I don't blame him. He likes storage. He really does. He likes being able to pack mule a lot of things. I think that's like his great love in D&D is just taking everything and shoving it into a hole and then selling it to go out and like he's very much an old school loot the dungeon, get the loot, take it back, go do it all over again kind of player. Which I think is really funny because it contrasts really heavily with the fact that like we grew up with in like the critical role wave, I would say, of D&D.
So we're more role play.
Yeah, we're more
heavy.
role play heavy over that. At least to a fun, I think, at least contrast in the group.
When I I remember when we first started playing with your dad when he like actually was playing in our group,
Right.
and he was picking up swords off the dead guys. They're like
Yeah.
just random standard short swords. I'm like, why in the world would you want to pick that up? It doesn't do anything fun.
Sell
It's
it.
just a
Sell
regular short sword.
He's a
And all of a sudden he's selling like 20 short swords. I'm like, what are you doing?
Maybe this is where I got my loot goblin tendencies in video games from, brother.
He is a loot goblin. It's so funny. Oh man. And so yeah. And like homebrew items you have to be careful with. So recently in my game, they went to the Underdark to go and deal with this city that had been enveloped by an orb that was produced by this like really evil sword. I'm gonna break the glass a little bit here, fellas. That's a 20th level legendary item I came up with. And I was like, wow, this is so cool. This is so fun. I'm loving every second of making this. It's gonna fit so well into the story. And then it hit me like a lightning bolt. I was like, they cannot have this. There is no way I can let them have this. And I spent a solid day at work pondering how I would get rid of that sword when the quest was over.
How did you get rid of the sword?
I Deus Machina'd it. It has the power to, when the user who wielded it dies, it just teleports somewhere random in the world to go find a new user. Because
you had somebody die with it?
Yeah, you guys killed the person who used it, remember? And that's why
I don't remember this.
Okay, so you went and killed the person who created the orb with the sword, and that's how you got out of the pocket dimension, right?
What campaign was this?
This was literally last session. There he goes. There he goes.
Oh, yes. I remember the sword and I wanted the sword.
Yes,
yeah.
I knew you wanted the sword because I knew my dad would want the sword. I know Levi would want the sword. I knew everyone would want the sword.
Yeah.
And I went, this thing is chaotic evil, is a legendary item, and I built it. I built it as like this really awesome, really cool sword. I was just having fun making it, and I went, wow, this is really broken. They can't have this, right? And so I literally put in a little line where it's like, when the user of the sword dies, it because it's chaotic evil, it doesn't care who wields it. It just teleports somewhere random to find a new wielder.
So you're saying it could come back?
I'm telling you, it definitely will come back at some point, right? It's just
when we're 20th level.
Is that none of us were chosen as the randomly selected person?
Well,
no,
you also it
doesn't pick a person. It just goes somewhere random. So it might just be sitting in a stone, like Excalibur in the middle of a forest right now.
But
right?
you had Mjolnir just chilling in the forest too.
Yeah.
And none of us could lift it. I budged it, but I did not lift it.
No, you didn't lift it. Someone did pick it up though.
So, not any of us.
Not to give any spoilies or anything. So yeah. Yeah. You got anything else, Ryan?
I think we about covered it.
Yeah, I think
it was a topic, and I hope I went somewhere with it.
I think you did really good. Honestly, I'm like, I was just thinking, I was like, man, you came more prepared than I have come in the last couple of weeks, and I got to step up my game, which I definitely will.
I just don't have a lot of homebrew experience, I guess.
Anyone else? Anyone else? Anything? Bueller?
No,
No.
just that we're gonna fight the D8 podcast.
Yeah, apparently.
Yeah, they're
you guys
legal
are a
action.
fictional D8 podcast, all right?
It's real. It's
Having
very real.
Get outta
And
here.
they
The
are.
D8 podcast exists.
Thank you for watching.
They are
The
fictional
D12 is
action.
underrated. I'm basically Bard. These are my friends Ryan, Roger, and Brandon, and we will see you next week.